Hello, wonderful friends, and welcome to all of you, as well as the fabulous Cori Wamsley, who has agreed to come and share her expertise with us today. As I said, Cori is the woman who makes best-selling authors, and these authors go on to then leverage their books for their business, increasing their revenue by about 50%. 50%. That is right. You heard me correctly. So, Cori, I would like to welcome you and have you tell us a little about Aurora Borealis and yourself.
Sure. Thank you for having me on here. Yes, I'm Cori Wamsley. I'm the CEO of Aurora Borealis Publishing, and I help people tell their transformational stories. And that is basically the story of you overcoming all the challenges in your life, in your business, whatever it is that you need to share with your audience that helps connect with them and help them get over the hump too, so they can reach that success faster. I'm a writing coach, so I help people work on their actual book, the writing piece of the book, and I also help them publish it. And I'm also an author of 8 books myself. So I've been through this process a few times. And I just love helping people with their stories.
I was trying to think this morning how long you have actually been in this world, because if I remember correctly, you sort of started not just as an author of yourself, but also as an editor. So it's been over a decade. Has it been 2 decades? I couldn't keep the numbers straight in my head.
Not quite. I've been in business for about 5 years, but I was actually editing books and writing novels and such before that. So I started my novels back in 2004. So yeah,
Okay.
It's been a while.
It has been a hot moment. And I love how you literally just said, but this specific business, right, was started 5 years ago. So I would like to lean in a little bit there, because I get this question a lot from my clients. Because people are always like, oh, and the book, like the book's something I should do someday. Do you recommend that people need to start a business and then write their book? Or is that something that they can do before they start their business?
I've seen it done both ways. And, sometimes people feel like they need to get their grounding, know who they're talking to and all of that stuff, and kind of get through a few shifts, because a lot of times when we start our businesses, we head in one direction, we turn, we make a lot of changes until we finally go, this is where we want to be. This is who I really want to talk to. But I've also seen people who are really solid about who they want to reach from the beginning. And a lot of those people are speakers. Just as an example, they have that story that they're like, this needs to get out. And this is the kind of person who I want to work with, because they've overcome cancer or alcoholism or, some tragedy in their lives. And they want to help people with that same specific thing. So they already know who their audience is, and they already have a really solid grasp on their story.
Got it. So for those of you watching, whether you are here live or you on replay, give us a woot woot if this sounds like right to your heart, where you're going, oh, wait a minute. I've been wanting to share this thing that I went through, whether you have a business or not, right? That surrounds this, that not just the challenge, but the success of it. And that also brings me to the point of, like, why is it important to share not just the challenge, but the success point?
Yeah. Well, the challenge is that connector piece. So you're saying to people, hey, this is what I'm helping you with. This is what I've been through. I understand what you're going through. And also the success is where they want to be. So if you're reaching out to people who are going through, they're in that like messy middle piece, they want to see that there really is an end to that they really can get over it. Because a lot of times when you're in that part, it feels like it's never going to end. So you want to see somebody who's come through it successfully. And also that helps you say, hey, I'm the person you need to reach out to, because I have navigated this successfully. So that's a part that helps people, build their businesses. That's what helps coaches attract more clients, for example. It gets them to say, or it gets the reader to say, oh, okay, I see you've been through this. Here's all the struggle. You're being very honest with me about the struggle, and that's what I relate to. And yeah, you can help me with this. So after I'm done reading this book, I need to reach out to you for more.
Perfect. And then that being said, so who or what type of people? Because I know we've been talking about business owners, but we've also been talking about people that have like come through shit in their lives.
Yeah.
So who or what should be writing their book right now?
The people who really want to do something with that book. And I say that because I know a lot of people feel like, oh, I want to share my story, but then they just want to put it up on Amazon and be like, yeah, I hope it sells. Or, just write it, check the box and be like, yeah, I did that. Now I'm moving on. The type of people who need to be doing books are the ones who actually want to use those books in their business or use it to build a business. And if you are starting a book and it's something completely different from what you're doing, it's a new business. So you have to look at it that way, because otherwise you're kind of wasting your time, you're wasting your money, you're just creating a product that you don't intend to do anything with. And that is really, to me, that would be really frustrating, because you want your time to be maximized. And if you're taking that time to share your story, then chances are you want to make a big impact.
That is so this brings me to, a curious part here, which is, and this is something that I even like years and years ago just assumed one of those, like you said, oh, just put a book out there on Amazon and it's gonna do its trick, and next thing you know, it'll be in bookstores and libraries all over the place. And the idea behind that was, in my brain, was like, oh, well, people just make a lot of money off the book. Like the book sells. We're so used to seeing like J.K. Rowling, and even the woman that wrote the Outlander series. Like, even if it took years, all of a sudden it's picked up, and next thing you know, they're like millionaires. But it doesn't sound like that is always the case with what you're just saying about putting it on Amazon and crossing your fingers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And I don't want anybody to think that there was no effort behind J.K. Rowling or, any of these other big authors. There was definitely effort there. It's not that they put out their book and, all of a sudden millions of people discovered them. I think that that's kind of a misconception in the industry, is that people get lucky or they get discovered. There's work behind that. You have to be actually marketing that book. You have to actually stand behind it and say, this is powerful and I want it to reach a lot of people. So you need to have some sort of a marketing plan. Yeah.
Okay. And so the really cool thing, at least the women watching this, the business owners watching this, have wonderful marketing plans for their business, right? They're empire builders. They have either taken all the expert courses or have hired experts. But then when it comes to like a book, I can literally hear them right now being a little bit like a deer in a headlights. Like, I'm not really sure about how to market a book out there to like make the money off the book itself.
Mm-hmm.
What can you say to kind of help soothe them there?
Yeah. So there are two pieces. I started to talk about that and I think I got sidetracked. So there are two pieces to it. So you are, yes, making money off of the book, but then you're also making money off of all the things that the book does for you. So as far as marketing the book, when you are in that, like new book phase. Everybody's very excited about it. It's that like honeymoon phase, like, ooh, she has a new book. Ooh, it's so exciting. So a little bit before that, you want to be promoting it. And, when it first launches, you want to be promoting it. You want to make sure you're reaching out to local media. You want to reach out to newspapers, radio, podcasts, TV stations, magazines. There are so many options. Of course, niche appropriate. Don't just be, beating down the door of every single person you've ever heard of and, be reaching audiences that aren't really yours. So there's that piece of it. The other part of it is all the things you do with the book. So once you've kind of established that authority, like we had a book that came out that had a review by the editor-in-chief of Women's Day. So that was one of the things that we were like, oh, the editor-in-chief of Women's Day said this. And that was one of our big marketing pieces around it. And that was a credential in itself. Hey, this person has credentials and she liked this book. So that kind of gives credence to everything that we were doing with that particular book. It was Living Kindly. So you can do that kind of thing. And whenever you're on media, you can say, hey, I used my book to pitch to the Today Show, or I used my book to pitch to a local TV station, or whatever it is that you wanted to do. And that sort of starts stirring up, she's really doing something here. She really knows what she's talking about. These people are taking her seriously.
And I love literally what you just said about like pitching to something like the Today Show. So, or if, everyone's like into the whole TED Talk thing, because so many people are like, oh, I'll just self-publish. Right? I'll just self-publish, maybe hire a friend with an English degree to edit it. Oh, love them. I love everybody so much, by the way. Because there's, depending what you want to do with your book. Like if it's just maybe for you and your specific audience as a business owner, and they're used to the way that you speak and intone things, like perfect. But if you're really looking to leverage this book far beyond you, right? The Today Show is going to want to read a masterpiece. Yeah. Like there cannot be tense errors. There cannot be logical fallacies. There cannot be the spelling, the punctuation, it's so much more than that. Right? So if you want to go big, and the cover, right? If you want to go big, that's when it's like, okay, let me step out of this self-publishing arena and let me really seek out an expert to make sure that I get all of those things on point. And that's where you come in.
Yeah. So we do hybrid publishing, which I know a lot of people haven't heard of. The self-publishing piece, I think most people are familiar with, but you have to find all the experts. And that can be a challenge, especially when you're running a business, you're busy. Finding the experts that you can trust, that are more than just somebody who has an English degree. You're looking for someone who actually knows how to edit a long work. And as somebody with English degrees, I know that doesn't come when you first pop out of college. That's something that you have to work on over time. And that's something that I honed for years in my career before I started my business, was editing longer works and being able to see, the arc of the story, the arc of everything we're trying to tell, being able to cut repetition. So you have to have somebody who will remember, like, hey, she talked about this topic in chapter 2, and here we are talking about exactly the same example in chapter 10. And I've found books where that happens. You need somebody who can dive in and has sort of this, a gift for editing, basically. And, beyond that, I have seen some really crappy covers. And if you're pitching, just to be blunt, if you're pitching to the Today Show and it looks like, a kindergartner drew it, no offense to kindergartners, they're great artists. But if it looks like a kindergartner drew it, or if it looks like, if they look at it and they're like, isn't this a free stock photo? Then they're going to know this isn't somebody we take seriously. This isn't someone who has invested their time and money and, their belief in their self. So that's kind of the self-publishing piece. The traditional publishing, most people are familiar with that. You have to pitch and pitch and pitch and pitch until you find an agent, usually, who will then take you to a publishing house. Of course, you don't usually have any sort of upfront costs in that, but publishing houses don't promo everybody, which I think is something that people get confused about. They think, oh, okay, J.K. Rowling, everybody's talking about her, or Stephen King, or, some of these other big ones. There are plenty of authors that they aren't talking about at all. And those authors have to stand on their own marketing plan. In fact, when you're pitching to an agent, you have to have a marketing plan. And you talk about that in your query letter. So there's that piece to it. Yes, they have all the professionals there, but you have no control over the timeline, and you have less control over what the book looks like in the end. So the hybrid world kind of brings the two together. So you have the professional piece, you put out a professional book. And you have the piece with self-publishing, which is more control. So you can say, hey, I need my book to come out before my TED Talk. I need my book to come out for a huge event I'm doing in the spring. And you have that sort of control to be able to say, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I know what I want. And with us, we work side by side with you. So like our cover designer sits down and says, hey, what's your vision for this cover? Who are you trying to reach? And she has a background in marketing and branding. So, your book is a piece of your business. It has to look like a piece of your business. It can't just be some stray thing, just some stray thing that you bring in that doesn't speak to the correct audience. It has to stand out while also fitting into your niche.
I love how you pointed out, because so many of us, especially, right, all the empire builders that are listening and watching, and please give us just like a little hands up if this immediately sounds like you, is we're so used to putting together like PDFs, right, for our client bases, or when people reach out of like, oh, here's what I offer, or here's a freebie, which is like a little preview of what I do. So we're used to the writing process to some degree, right, and putting things out there. And so what I'm really hearing from you is like, loves, this is entirely a different beast. It's entirely a different beast, which, now that I think about it, so one of my friends, she published about 6 years ago, and she wanted to go about the self-publishing route. And I remember she said at the time, she started like trying to write it on her own. And she was like, and it all of a sudden, it just landed in her lap. Like, I can't, like, this is not that. This is not what I'm used to doing. Like, I literally have no idea what I'm doing. And she went out and hired a writing coach who then helped her through the publishing process, because of literally what you were just talking about, is that all of a sudden hit her. And that's where a lot of people stop the writing process then, right? Or don't even start, because it's looking at this, oh my gosh, this is going to take me months. And even if I hire somebody such as Cori, like, she's gonna, if she's coaching me on it, she's gonna want so many words by certain dates, and like school is starting, and then there's the holidays. So like, I love your face. I love your, okay, so you're used to hearing this, I'm assuming. Yeah, you want to dive in there a little bit?
Yeah. So for starters, I firmly believe that everyone out there who has a drive to tell their story is capable of writing a book. I firmly believe that. And I want you to get your head around that concept first, because I do have people come to me and they're like, oh, I'm a crappy writer and I just need a ghostwriter. And I'm just like, I've seen your videos. You know how to communicate with your audience. And if you can do that, then I believe that you can write your story. So there's that piece of it. So it's more than just knowing how to write. It's having that belief in yourself. And it's also, actually sitting down and doing it and saying, you know what, I have this drive, and, mapping it out beforehand. You don't just sit down, like, in the middle of the night, you suddenly have, we've all seen the movies where it was like, it was a dark, stormy night, and she sits down at her computer and she's pounding away and there's sweat dripping. And, it's not like that. I tried that once and it sucked. And I wrote like 3 chapters and I was dead exhausted, and I trashed most of that because it's just pointless. You're just kind of writing yourself into a wall, and then you're like, oh, where am I going with this? You have to map it out ahead of time. You have to have a plan. It's like, punching in your GPS. Hey, I want to go to Clearwater Beach. This is where I'm going. This is how many hours it's going to take. Think of it that way. Like, you have to know all those things. And that's what I help people with. Like, in our first session, we sit down and I'm like, this is how long it's going to take. We're going to do 5 months of writing. Here's what we're going to do. And no, I'm not expecting a certain number of words, but you do have to get your butt moving. And in case you're wondering, I have been working on a novel this summer and I wrote 25,000 words in a month. So it is doable, but I used my process on that.
Right. And we should, so for those of you that don't know Cori, not only is she running a business as she's writing this, she also has 2 young girls. So it wasn't like she was just sitting around sipping margaritas and doing nothing else than, sending things to her VA and then writing. She was in full on mommy mode too.
Yeah, mommy summer mode. So entertaining children. And we did bring in a sitter. So we had a sitter 3 mornings a week. But that's part of it too, is knowing what to delegate, knowing what to say, what, girls, you're just going to watch a movie while I come in here and work on this. And you have to cut the guilt. Like if this is something that you really feel is important for you, you can't go, oh, but I'm doing this. Oh, I need to wash the dishes. You have to just say, you know what? I'm taking an hour today to do this. Those dishes will wait. The laundry will still be dirty later. It's fine. You have to know what to delegate, what to say, hey, I need a little extra time on. And I've seen people swing the other way on it too, where they think they're going to become this monster that just wants to sit in front of their computer and write, which I lean that direction. I'm like, oh, I just want to be left alone for months and just write my books. And a lot of that is that self-control thing. I've seen people do that with video games. They become addicted to this stuff. They just, want to dive into that world and stay there. And you have to understand, like, it's like anything else. You can't do that. You have to be reasonable about it. And you have to take breaks. You have to break it up.
Yes. I love how you said that's like me with art. Like I will get into the studio and be there till 1 a.m. like passing out because why am I so tired? Oh, it's 1 a.m. Like you needed to go to bed like 6 hours ago, Amanda, because I go to bed early. So if you have questions, by the way, for Cori, please feel free to type them, whether you're here live or on replay. She will come back around and answer them because, of course, so many people listening have different types of businesses, right? They have different sort of products or services. So you might be like, wait, how would this work for mine? I really don't get it. But I would like to loop around because I know we've been talking a lot about like getting the book out there and like using like how to sell the book itself. But there's this flip side to it, which is almost, ladies, I feel like you're going to watch this and go, oh my God, this part sounds so much easier because it's more in your zone of expertise, which is writing your book, not to be like, oh, I'm going to make millions of dollars off the book, but bringing in your high-end clients from the book. The book is like your hand raiser. The book is the introduction. Your book is that, remember back in the day when everyone was like, oh, do the $25 masterclass. That is it. Mm-hmm. Can you say a little more to that?
Yeah. So there's 2 pieces to that. There's always a bunch of pieces. So first of all, when you are writing about your story and sharing your book, it is an intimate conversation. We've all binge watched a TV series before and been like, oh my God, she's my best friend. I'm concerned about her now. And then you stay up all night wondering, what happened. When you're doing the same sort of thing in your book, and I don't mean like, flinging open your closet doors and being like, here's all the crap that I've got tucked away in here. Very strategic, here's this nugget, here's this nugget, here's this nugget. And you're sharing all of the things that are important to your audience. You're building that know, like, trust. And you also have to seed your programs in there. And I don't mean ads. I mean, talking about like, when I worked with a client on this same problem, just saying something like that. Or, my clients in my X program often go through this same struggle. You talk about that kind of stuff, build up to the end. And by then they're going, oh, she has a program. Oh, she does some one-on-one coaching. You know what? I wonder about that. And even at the end, you can share a little bit about that. You can have this conclusion chapter where you're like, hey, I invite you to check out my Facebook community, or I invite you to schedule a call with me. I invite you to, download these free things. The things on the website, I think that's one of the big.
That's how I've got in the past. Come get this free PDF. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can put a QR code in your book. You can put like a little bit link in there and just say, I invite you to get even more from this book. I have free meditations. I have these worksheets. I have, XYZ on my website. When people come over to your website, they're also giving you their email address. So then you get into the other half of the marketing where you're keeping them in your world and you're talking to them through email. So you've built that relationship already. So it's just a natural sell to say, hey, I am inviting you to work with me.
And that's the wonderful thing is once they're in your world, you are already an expert and or have experts hired for that. Like that is back in your wheelhouse, right? So this part of the conversation feels a little different than the first part of the conversation with Cori, where it was like all this outside expertise, right? And you can do both with your book.
Yeah.
Right. You can do both with your book, or either or start out one and shift it. It's like everything in business, right? Leverage everything you've got. And the cool thing about the book is, and I still send people to my friend's book all the time when that I was speaking about that she wrote a book about 6 years ago, because they're more beginner and they've reached out to me and I'm like, love ya. This program's not right for you. Let me send you to this book. That book is still there, right? All the work she put, and she's still getting clients from it.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about a book. It's done once. And as long as you are looking at, you don't want to make it like so nichey that, as you're growing with your business, it's not going to be flexible. You want to make sure that it encompasses your big ideas, your big goals with your business. Now, obviously, if you're a marketer and then you shift into being a Reiki master, it's going to be a little bit different. And you may not be able to use that book. But as long as you're pretty much in the same stream, you're going to be able to be flexible with that book. And again, when you're bringing people back to your website, you can change those emails. You can change the downloads. You can say, hey, it used to be this. Now I'm offering this because it's even better.
Yes, I love that. I love that part. And I love how it's set and done. It's not like, we in our industries here, save your social media posts, save your emails, save your blogs so you can recycle. But that's the thing, you have to recycle them. Then you have to go back or have your VA go back and scroll through and then decide, like, the book is done. Like the baby is out there, and you can change your freebies or your funnels, but it would be what you would have changed for everybody else coming into your world anyway. It's not additional work.
And you can use your book in different ways too. So you may start out like, hey, I'm using this book to attract new clients, and then say, you know what, I'm starting to do more speaking. I'm going to use that with my speaking events now. And of course, you want to dovetail your talks with your book so that it actually drives people to the book. It's this like big circle of attraction, basically. So you're using your book to get the speaking events. You're using the book at the speaking events to get more people into your world. And, all of that kind of stuff. There are people who use their books that then end up with those people at their speaking events because they've built that know, like, trust factor. So it's, this great big circle.
So if you're watching, whether you're live on replay, tell us if this sounds like hell yes, right? Because we're so used to in our industries, like having to relearn, or there's this new thing now. And the book's like, once you have gone through it, like, you're good. And then you can leverage it however you want to. So that being said, and I'm just looking through to see if there are any comments. How do you, I know you said like you're a book coach, right? You have editors in your publishing house, right? But there's also other things you do. I know you have different kind of tiers of packages, right? It's not just this like, here's what I offer and that's it, because everybody's business is so different. Can you kind of like give us little glimpses of that?
Yeah. It depends on where you want to come into my world, basically. So if you're coming in with just, a set of ideas and no book, we do coaching. There's private coaching, and there's also a group coaching program. And they're both, year round. Whenever you're ready to go in, that's when you can cycle into the program. And those programs then move into the editing and publishing piece. And I also have, if people come in and they're like, hey, I wrote my book on my own, I'm ready to go. they can just start with that editing piece. We handle the editing. We have a cover designer. We handle all of the interior, so it looks like an actual book instead of a Microsoft Word document, page numbering and all of that good stuff. So we have all of those pieces to do the actual publishing, and then we do the publishing for you. But we also do the bestseller campaign. And what that entails is helping, we do the emails and the social media copy. So you can take those and use them with your audience. Because if we're using them with our audience, it's going to be very different. My audience is different from your audience. So we give those to you. We explain how to do the campaign. We give you a web page that you can drive people to sign up so they know when your book's coming out. And then we actually, launch your ebook on launch day and get it to bestseller.
Very cool. Now, I also know that you have a couple other people in there that can help authors out depending on which package they choose, such as me.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, and of course I'm bringing this up because we're live on my page.
Yes.
Where do you put the universe and all of its infinite wisdom into this process?
That's something we offer in the private coaching program. And it is right at the beginning, because it's very important to have that kind of like wide angle view of what's going to happen with this book. And that's something that Amanda offers. So I'm coming in with that book mapping piece, the like nuts and bolts, and Amanda comes in with, hey, here's all the stuff that you already talked to the universe about. And you guys have this agreement, this is what you're going to be doing. So that is the fabulous part about that program. And it's right at the beginning. So you're not sitting there like, okay, I'm writing this whole book and then what's going to happen? You know that at the beginning. So you have a much better picture of exactly what you're supposed to be doing with that book.
And the fabulous thing is, and I'm just going to, pitch how much I love the universe right now, is, well, that's the thing. Like Cori said, you and the universe created this before you were born, this book. And the universe is like, oh, we've created this to help you, to be of service to you, to help you get those more clients, those more cash, that wider breadth of who you can reach, right? This isn't, oh, here, have some fluffy little feel good about how well your book might do. This is like okay, we're drilling this in for you because it has been pre-planned for your success. Here's the quickest, shortest steps to that success, right? So you're not wandering around, and not that Cori would let you wander around, but it's like even more drilled in. So I just wanted to point that out, because as we've been speaking today, like, wow, this process of writing a book, like, it sounds exciting, but it also sounds kind of complex. And am I doing the right thing? Am I talking about the right thing if I'm not quite sure? And the wonderful thing I know about Cori is she can help you narrow that down to begin with, right? And then we'll take you and the universe in and say, aha, here's exactly what you need to do.
Yes, exactly.
So just putting that out there, because yeah, I like the shortest, fastest, quickest steps,
Me too. That's why it's part of the program.
Right.
Yeah.
I like to drive around in circles for hours.
Yeah. And I know some people, like there are some book coaches that offer programs that are like a year, 2 years, however long, you just keep adding on. My programs are 6 months because you've got stuff to do and you want to get that book done and launch it and start using it to reach your success.
Right. Mama ain't messing around.
No.
I love that. I love that. What else would you like people to know, and how can they reach you and join your world?
Yeah. So I always like to leave with this tip. You have permission to write a messy first draft. So if you are thinking about it and you're jotting down all these ideas, don't let the mess hold you back. It can be messy. It can also be very easy. So do reach out to me. I am on Facebook You can find me at Cori Wamsley if you just search my name. Look for Aurora Coriolis Publishing on here. I have a page. I also have a free group on Facebook. It's Elevate Your Leadership with a Book. I have YouTube. If you just search Cori Wamsley, you'll find me on there, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I'm basically everywhere.
Can you, when we are done, can you put your private Facebook group link below the video? So it's just
Yes.
click done.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cori. Any parting wisdom beyond it's okay to send me a messy first draft? I am not going to judge you or think less of you.
Yeah. You know, you really can write your book. You really can use it to build your business, to grow and expand and reach a ton more people. And if you have a big message to get out there, definitely reach out to me.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Cori, for being with us today. And she will be answering questions over the next 24 hours. If you tag her and or just comment on this thread. Thank you all for being here with us as well. And we'll speak again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.